Hello, people of YouTube. So I just saw Nightcrawler, and it was pretty good. There's certainly a lot of hype surrounding this movie, and expectation is rarely something that works in a film's favor. And while I did leave the theater thinking, yep, that one was overhyped, there was a lot about the movie that I did enjoy. Hey, this happened last year too. Well, for starters, Jake Gyllenhaal was pretty fantastic. I don't think a scene goes by without him in it, and he's always interesting to watch. His performance was so beautifully nuanced that quite often, his facial expressions and delivery of his dialogue reveal way more about his character than the actual dialogue itself.
I'd like to start meeting them this morning. You'll take me around, you'll introduce me as the owner and president of Video Production News, and remind them of some of my many other stories. I'm not done. I also want to stop our discussion over prices. This will save time. So when I say that a particular number is my lowest price, that's my lowest price. And you can be assured that I arrived at whatever that number is very carefully. Now, when I say that I want these things, I mean that I want them. And I don't want to have to ask again.
I thought his character was really interesting, but is being merely interested in the main character enough to sustain an audience for a 2-hour runtime? Well, I'll come back to this. Rene Russo was also really good. Her character sort of mirrored Gyllenhaal's in the sense that she's driven solely by her need for success. It doesn't matter what moral dilemma is before her, it's all about the shot. This dynamic could have been horrible had it been too heavy-handed, but the scenes between these two were always well written, well directed, and the actors' chemistry was just perfect. I'd say the scenes between these two were among the strongest in the film. Now, this is the directorial debut of Dan Gilroy, previously known for his work on these movies, and I think it's really cool to see what kind of story he's actually interested in telling. This is a much smaller movie in comparison to what he's previously worked on, and I commend him for attempting to bring a pretty ambitious character study to mainstream audiences. However, I do think this script has a lot of problems. Problems that actually ended up affecting my enjoyment of the film quite a bit. Now, my biggest issue was the fact that I didn't actually care about anybody who's on screen. I was interested in Gyllenhaal's character, sure, but I didn't care about him. If you're going to have your central character be an anti-hero, that's great, but you need at least one of two things to get the audience behind them. One being a starting point to that character that connects the audience to what they're going through and why. We don't need to agree, we just need to understand. But the film pretty much just dives in the deep end from the get-go, and as a result, the Lou Bloom we see at the end of the film really ain't too different from the Lou we started out with. Stripping the character of any discernible character arc left me as a viewer feeling rather passively towards what I was watching, as if I was observing the film from the outside without ever really achieving that true sense of immersion. This also led to a 20 to 30 minute chunk in the middle of the film to feel a little bit repetitive. A few simple changes to the movie's structure could have helped to add more tension, the most notable one being the detective. Her part was underwritten to say the least, and had they brought her into the story a bit earlier, it would have made the movie more exciting. Seeing Lou get away with his act again and again, only to have one cop not buy a word of it, closing in on him as he becomes more and more desperate. It was recently done on FX's Fargo, and it worked beautifully. Not to mention, it would have given the film a very much needed moral compass. But there have been films in the past in which no characters on screen are morally in line with the audience, but we still feel something for them beyond just revulsion. And it's usually because voiceover is brought in to give them a more intimate relationship with the audience. In American Psycho, Patrick Bateman shares with the audience what he's thinking. Subsequently, we get a sense of how his mind works. We know the dirty secrets that he's hiding from the other characters in the movie, giving the audience a connection to his character, and also making his confession a very emotional scene to watch. Nightcrawler didn't really take either of these routes. They wrote a great character, but not a great journey for him to go on. Now, before I go into spoilers, I do want to say that this doesn't mean I think the movie is bad. I just wasn't as entertained by it as I wanted to be. Okay, the third act does have some stuff worth talking about, so if you don't want spoilers, then skip to this time code to avoid, and 3, 2, 1. Now, I've gone on a little about the film lacking tension, but the sequence at the end where he and Rick are filming the criminals in the Chinese restaurant and the subsequent high-speed chase was an intense and exhilarating 15 minutes of cinema. We see how far Lou is willing to go to get his perfect shot, and just how fearless of death that determination has made him. Hands down my favorite sequence in the movie. Too bad it finished with one of the worst scenes in the movie. After Rick pretty much blackmails Lou for a raise that he's deserved for a long time, Lou immediately loses trust in him and essentially kills him by allowing him to be shot by the criminal in the car wreck. The scene itself was very good. A great payoff, in fact. I really hated Lou in that moment, and felt so terrible for Rick. It's after Lou approaches him and they have an exchange does the scene take a turn for the worse. Gyllenhaal maintains his stellar performance performance, but oh my god, does this guy not know how to fake being shot. He's literally lying there with a bullet hole through his heart, and his delivery is like, "Oh Lou, how could you do this to me? You are crazy. I die now." He sounded so disinterested that quite honestly, I went from being saddened by his death and the injustice of it all to not really giving a crap. It's sorta hard to care about a character dying when that character doesn't really seem to mind dying all that much. And it was really weird because this guy had been consistently natural up until that point. After that, the movie wraps up pretty quickly. They tried to shove in that "I'm on to you" dynamic with the detective that I was talking about earlier, but it's too late in the game for that subplot, and the movie knows it. So Lou assembles another team together and drives off into a consequence-free ending. The end. A modern masterpiece. Now with that said, the movie does have a lot of things to appreciate in it. The score by James Newton Howard was great, especially in the moments where we experience Lou's euphoria. Bill Paxton also gave a really good performance, and it's not the first time this year. I'm starting to like you in small doses. The film is well shot, has great atmosphere, and I do think Gyllenhaal's performance is more than worth your time. But ultimately, Nightcrawler left me feeling a little underwhelmed. I'm giving this one a 7 out of 10. I would recommend it to you. It is good. I just didn't think it was fucking amazeballs.
Witness the motion picture event that is being called fucking amazeballs.
So what's your favorite Jake Gyllenhaal performance? The man has had quite a career. Let me know in the comments, and as always, YouTube, take it easy till next time.